Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. So, over 78% of Russians voted for referendum that the Russian president, Mr. Vladimir Putin, could continue as a president or could contest for presidency till 2036 for the next 16 years. Vladimir Putin's term would have naturally ended in 2024. Let's understand who this Vladimir Putin is. Let's hear the Vladimir Putin story. Let's get right into the show. Who is Vladimir Putin? Why do people like him so much? Or do really people like him? That's the question we'll try to answer today. So as far as this election is concerned, a lot of bodies like the Golos, an independent Russian election monitoring group, has said that all this 78% and all, they said it is all a lie, it is all a sham, all this didn't happen. Everything that happened was actually manipulated by Vladimir Putin. In fact, some people went out to say that Putin actually paid money. He actually ran a promotion scheme for people who would come and vote, and he said there'll be random people who will be paid money who would come and vote for him. There are reports that says that opposition was not allowed to campaign. So with a lot of criticism, not only in Russia, across the globe, the Russians, 78% of the Russians, technically on paper, 78% of Russians went and voted for a reform. Let us first understand the concept of USSR. USSR was made by a lot of states put together. They all believed in communism. So USSR was a communist state with a lot of states put together. Now what really happened was, states join hands to ensure that there is common growth. The concept of a collective growth is what makes states come together, what makes groups. States started getting a feeling that USSR, the other states were not getting prominence in USSR, only Russia was getting the prominence. So all growth was happening in Moscow. Rest of the states was just there. This discontent was predominant reason why USSR broke and Russia became a separate entity. And so did other states, like I said, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, so on and so forth. Now, let us focus on Russia. The first president of independent Russia, when I say independent Russia, I mean when after the break of USSR, the first president was a gentleman called Boris Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin took over office in 1991. Now, Boris Yeltsin was a very powerful leader, no doubt. Popular leader too, no doubt. But Boris Yeltsin got entangled in a lot of corruption cases. He and his daughter got entangled in a lot of corruption cases to an extent where Boris Yeltsin was almost feeling the heat. Chances are that Boris Yeltsin could have been put behind bars or worse with his daughter. That was the time when a young Vladimir Putin came into the scene in Russia. Vladimir Putin went and told Boris Yeltsin that, listen, chill, you go, we will do nothing to you, I will give you a safe passage, you enjoy your rest of your lives with your family, I will ensure that your daughter is safe and let me have the power. And that is exactly how Vladimir Putin came into the picture. So Boris Yeltsin, 1991 to 1999, 1999, Vladimir Putin took over. Now starts the interesting story. The first thing he did, there were a lot of kingmakers who went around saying that, listen, we made Vladimir Putin the president, we made what Putin is today. There were a lot of people at that point in time, the so-called Margdarshaks. Vladimir Putin cut each of these Margdarshaks completely out of the picture and made them redundant. The first step that Vladimir Putin did after he became the president. The second thing, that Vladimir Putin did? Vladimir Putin took control of media. Complete control of media, because in Russia, media was controlled by businessmen. Vladimir Putin literally put a gun on their heads and ensured that they toe his line to the T. And by the way, let me tell you, Russian media was never free. Russia didn't have a free media and all of that. So Russia always had a restricted media. So it was not very difficult task for Vladimir Putin. But Vladimir Putin, what he did was, at least 24 to 30 media persons till date are either dead, lost, kidnapped, or not found till now. So 24 to 30 people, media persons, have just gone from the face of this earth. Where they are, nobody knows. The fourth thing that he did was also very interesting. And the fourth thing that he did was, he slowly but steadily finished off the concept of opposition. From 1999, when he took over, to today, there is hardly or maybe absolutely no opposition to Vladimir Putin. Again, like I spoke about media, a lot of opposition leaders, voice of dissent, have either vanished from the face of this earth, disappeared, or killed. So that has been Vladimir Putin. Now, Vladimir Putin is known to be absolutely ruthless, tremendously ruthless, and almost a man with zero emotions. You see, the face that he has actually reflects his heart, they say. This is what people say. I don't know. I never met him. But all the same. There was an example that is very famous. An example about his dog. His family, he and his wife, had a pet dog, who both, his wife and he, loved a lot. This pet dog, he was not the president then, by the way. This pet dog, one day, just went out of the house or whatever and met with an accident and died on the spot. Now, the secretary came running. His secretary came running to him and said, your pet dog is dead. Vladimir Putin said, okay. And he continued with his work. So, the wife, Vladimir Putin's wife, asked the secretary, have you informed Vladimir Putin the dog is dead? He's not even come out to see it. So, the secretary said, I informed, but he's not reacting. So she said, Arey, how can he not react? Our pet dog. She went inside and asked him, Arey, your pet dog is dead. He just looked up and he said, okay, he's dead. So yeah, continue, go do the funeral. I'm busy. So that is what people talk. That's his emotion. That's the kind of emotion that he emits. This man, they say, has zero emotions. Absolutely practical. So that's one emotional story that is one story about Vladimir Putin. Now, Vladimir Putin was not just emotionless, he was absolutely 100% ruthless. Ruthless to the extent where taking lives or sacrificing human lives for him is nothing big. But then they say that is how you're made in KGB, and that is how people are in KGB, the Russian Secret Service Agency. That is how they are, they say. And Putin, I'm sure, is possibly the best example then. Okay, let's go further. You see, one of the biggest thing that Putin always did was play nationalism card. The only way he could crush the opposition, crush voice of dissent, or crush anything that came his way was playing the nationalist card, the patriotism card. You see, in Chechnya, there's a group of, Chechnya is a Muslim-dominated state in Russia. Chechnya didn't want to be part of Russia. Chechnya was asking for an independent status. A school was taken hostage by militant. It is alleged that it is militant. There are conspiracy theory that it was not militant. It was possibly the government forces themselves, but then that is conspiracy theory. Let's keep it aside. But that being said, a lot of organizations, a lot of human rights organizations claimed that almost 80% of the hostages were killed not by the militant but by Russian indiscriminate firing. Hudson Institute said that This incident presents a chilling portrait of Russia's leadership and its total disregard for human life. According to media reports, it was not hostage rescue operations but an army operations aimed at wiping out the terrorist. In the name of rescuing that school, killed almost everybody who was voice of dissent in Chechnya, killed lots of opposition. And the narrative was that, look, they are the anti-nationals. And to serve the great country of Russia, I killed the anti-nationals. So, nationalism has been the key factor for Putin right from 1999. Another example I'll give you. You see, in 2000, a Russian submarine called Kruks, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Kruks, was involved in a naval exercise in the Barents Sea. Now, during the exercise, there was some technical error in the submarine, and the submarine started sinking. In fact, there was some blast inside the submarine, and the submarine started sinking. Now, mind you, in a very short distance, there were American ships, American submarines that were also doing naval exercise. And there were submarines from some other countries too. So it was very easy, since it was not any war happening there, it was very easy for these people to just call for help, send SOSs to one of these submarines, one of these ships, and they would come and they could have been rescued. There were 118 people in that submarine. The submarine sent a message to Putin and to the government of Russia and asked Putin if they could ask for help. Putin refused to allow them to ask help from United States or from any other country for that matter of fact. Putin refused to give the permission because he didn't want the world to see that there were technological snags in his war equipments, in his warheads, and that's precisely why, to sacrifice the lives of his men. 118 people died with that submarine only because Putin didn't allow them to take help from other countries. This is the story of Putin's ruthlessness, nationalistic ruthlessness. So, what is very important about Vladimir Putin, and the reason why a lot of Russians love Vladimir Putin, is because end of the day, there is one philosophy that Vladimir Putin practices, preaches and understands. And that philosophy is economic prosperity. Now, the GDP has been going up and going down. In fact, the GDP has not been doing too well post 2012. But that being said, Russia and Putin ensured that the middle class was kept happy. He used his commodities, he used his oil brilliantly. He very well understands that till such time that he can keep his countrymen happy, he can ensure that there is food in the table, he can ensure that most of the people, especially the middle class, are kept prosperous. Nobody is going to question him. Nobody is going to question him about freedom of expression. Nobody is going to question him about squashing opposition. Nobody is going to question him about democracy. Nobody is going to questioning him about anything and everything that he does. And that's precisely what he has been doing. He has been handling the oil prices. The oil, Russia is a huge producer of oil in the world. And the way Russia manages its oil is phenomenal. It's far better than any other Middle Eastern countries. The way it markets and sells its oil. People there, especially the middle class, I repeat, has got food in the table and enough money to survive and thrive. He has created a concept called the electoral dictatorism. In his electoral dictatorism, he ensures that there is elections every time. Like I just spoke to you, 78% of Russians voted to ensure that the constitution is changed. So, he ensures that that kind of electoral dictatorism is something that he put into practice and he excelled in it. He introduced this world to this concept of electoral dictatorism. Because he has elections. But where are the opposition? There is no opposition. So what is the concept of election? So this is the long and short of Putin. To put the entire thing in a nutshell, Putin came in, first cut all the so-called kingmakers, then cut the media, then cut the opposition, then ensured that he started making changes in the constitution, then ensured that, earlier on, changes in the constitution reminds me of one more thing which I want to add. Earlier on, like in United States, a president could be only for 2 terms. It's Putin who changed the laws and ensured that he could continue as president. For some time, he was the prime minister, but that was for a short time. So he changed the constitution. Fourth, he ensured that the economy runs so that people are happy. And last but not the least, he ensured that he brought about this new concept called the electoral dictatorism. This is the Vladimir Putin story for you. Till I meet you next time. Namaskar.